group of women to be joining me on this Resurrection Sunday. I hope you
Yeah.
all had a good Sunday. How was your days today?
I'm full.
Me as well. I'm very full. I spent a few hours at my boyfriend's house. Getting
I
full.
didn't get I didn't get that meal, but my mama cooked the other day, so
That's
them
good.
leftovers, them leftovers was hitting. Well,
Yes.
thank you all for joining the Beyond the Surface Leadership Academy Soul Sunday Speaker Series. This is our first series. You all are our first guests, so give yourselves a round of applause. Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
So the speaker series is really important to me because I have the opportunity to meet brilliant, beautiful, and awesome Black women all over the world. And I just feel like we don't know each other. We don't talk to each other. We don't get to know each other. And we don't even know half of the things that we do. The one thing we'll say is like, well, what do you do? And it'd be like, I do a lot. Like you have no idea all the things that we all do, right? Until we start having conversations with each other. So that's why this is so important to me because I want to expose Black women to each other. I want us to get to know each other. And one of the things that happens, and it actually happened today with these panelists, is that you'll find out that you have a lot of things in common. So these ladies have been talking to each other for the last 5 minutes. One is from Florida. No, two are from Florida or lived in Florida. One is in Florida now. It's so like already we're making connections and we've only been in
All three
talking
of
to each
us lived
other.
in Tampa.
Right. That's crazy.
And we just been talking about that in the last 10 minutes. So I just think that it's awesome for us to come together. The thing most important to me about the Soul Sunday Speaker Series is that we talk about the pillars of the Sacramento Sister Circle and our rightful place. For me, I came to these pillars because I was working in the Southeast region, living in Atlanta, and I had a sabbatical after working with an organization for almost 10 years. And I had that sabbatical because it was rough. I ain't even gonna go through all the things that happened to me during that time frame or even how I left that organization that I poured my heart and soul in. But that sabbatical was so important to me because I was able to go throughout the Southeast region and meet with women that were a part of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, that were a part of work in Montgomery, Alabama. Barbara Ransby, she's an author. She does work. She did the autobiography or biography of Ella Baker. I was just able to go sit at the feet of some wonderful, powerful women that have came before me, and I really asked them, like, what are the things that got you to the place that you are now? And these are the things that they talked about. They talked about you need to know your history. You need to know the women that came before you. If you don't know that history, then how are you going to build on it? How are you going to build on that legacy? And then mentoring younger women and girls. Like, if we're not talking to our young women and making sure that they're not having the same experiences that we had as young women, then what are we doing? What is this all for? Then the other thing is we need to go beyond our horizons. Like, I don't want to hear what Black women don't do. We do everything. We do everything. So
Everything.
it's not a question about what we don't do. It's we do everything. It's what we want to do and how we want to do it and why we're doing it. That's the
Right.
question that you should ask. Also, being politically active. Matthews will be joining us shortly, and she just went out and ran for a district attorney in Sacramento. She did not actually win that seat, but we need Black women in elected positions. We need to be involved in elections, politics. We need to have a seat at those tables, and we're not there. People are making decisions for us that are not for us, and that
Yes.
is not okay.
And it
So
seems like Black women are the only people thinking. Everybody else,
Right.
it's like, how
well,
did you come up with that?
that's the badge of being the mothers of civilization, I guess, huh?
Right.
Yes.
So okay, yeah, so that goes into our pillars. And so the next one is being financially independent. If you don't got money, I'm sorry, there ain't nothing you can talk about.
Yeah.
Money, I mean, we don't want it to rule us. We want it to, control us, but we need to have money. And if we don't
Hmm.
have
Right.
money and everybody else is making money off of us, we can't do, we're not building legacies. We're not taking care of our business. We're not doing what we need to do for our families and our communities, and that's just not okay. The last one is Black femicide. Black women in this country are dying every 5 to 6 hours, and that has increased. That the occurrence of that has increased in the last since the pandemic. That is not okay. Why are we not talking about it? Why don't people know that? Why are we not doing something about that? And it's just not okay. So these wonderful women are going to cover the gamut. That was my spiel. I'm done. I don't have nothing else to say. But I definitely want you all to introduce yourselves. I want you to talk about why. What's your why? Like, what are you doing, and how are you building on this great legacy and continuum of Black women? Paving the way for younger women, and how do they fit in our pillars, and anything else you want to say. But I'm gonna give y'all about 10 minutes though, because we want to definitely leave questions and we want to leave time to have some conversations together. So you guys get to decide who goes first. I'm gonna let you guys take it from here. Who wants to?
I don't mind going first.
Okay.
Okay, let me go ahead and I can just share my screen through here. Let me get this up.
Can she share her
So
screen?
I got a little PowerPoint presentation with some pictures for y'all.
Let's see if that works, Amari. If not, we have your PowerPoint here too.
Okay.
Oh,
can y'all see?
Oh, add it to it. Hold on, she's gonna add you.
Right here.
Can y'all see this?
Hold on.
Not yet. Hold on.
It says add. What is that?
Van.
No. Tell her that. So she can add it to it. Because usually there's an option.
There you go. All right.
Yes.
But you may have to do the next page.
Yeah, you tell me when to go to the next page, or I'll try to anticipate, Amari.
Okay, are you showing it? Okay, I see. All right.
Oh no, you are doing it.
Oh, so I was. Okay.
Yeah, she's good.
All right.
You're good.
I'm good. So, hello everyone. My name is Amari Smith, and I'm here to talk to y'all, get to know you guys a little bit, and have y'all get to know me a little bit about, like she said, my why, about what I'm doing right now, and kind of where I'm trying to take my life. So, starting with a little bit about me and who I am. I grew up in Sacramento, California. I grew up with my dad, my mom, my younger sister, and a big part of my life, as you can see in this middle picture, is track. I ran track for the majority of my life growing up. I mean, I started when I was in elementary school, and I did that through high school, and it was a huge part of my life, going to practice every weekend, or I'm sorry, every day, going to track meets every weekend. And we traveled all over the United States. So it was a great experience, and it really taught me a lot about teamwork, and it taught me a lot about motivation and hard work and effort, and being the one, since, track is a team sport, depending on yourself and counting on yourself and having that personal accountability. But after running track for so many years, when I finally finished high school and started college, I knew that I was done with it. I had enough time running, and I just kind of wanted to relax and enjoy a little bit. So I ended up attending San Diego State University. I was super excited to get far away enough from, Sacramento, to where I had a little bit of freedom, but not too far, not out of state, to where, those out of state expenses pile up. So I went to SDSU. I majored in psychology because I was always interested in the human mind and people and interactions and how things worked, which is weird because I was always kind of a shy kid. I was always introverted, but it was interesting to me how people interacted. So it was kind of like contrasting. But that's what I did. And then in college, I had the great opportunity in this picture over here. I was able to study abroad. I was able to go to Peru for 3 weeks. I stayed with a host family, and I was able to learn the culture and attend traditional ceremonies, and see this wonderful, amazing work of art and history. This is Machu Picchu, and it kind of sparked my interest in travel country experience. I think I went to Mexico with my family, but it was my first outside of like, you know, super close to the United States, Mexico experience. So it was a great time. And then this picture over here is me hiking. I love nature. I love being outside. So this is kind of, college was me learning about myself, learning who I am, and learning what I wanted to do and who I wanted to be. So I kind of was able to explore a lot. But after college is when I was really just trying to figure things out. After I graduated from SDSU, I moved to Tampa, Florida. I actually moved to go to USF for a master's of social work. After I graduated with my bachelor's in psychology, as a lot of people may know, you kind of can't do much with a bachelor's in psychology to make decent money. You kind of have to get a master's or a doctorate. So I went that route to get a master's of social work. But after spending some time, about a semester and a half in it, I had to come to the conclusion that this isn't my path. This isn't what I see myself doing for years and years on end. And I don't want to commit these next 2 years and these thousands of dollars to a program that I don't have my heart set in. So I had to make the decision to leave that program and kind of start from scratch. I mean, you know, I still had my bachelor's, but I didn't necessarily have a path that I wanted to go down. So I was thinking, did I want to do something in education? I had experience in education. I tutored in high school. I worked as a teacher assistant in college and tutored in college. And I had a lot of experience working with kids in different ways. So I didn't know if I wanted to do something with that. I didn't know if I wanted to start my own business and be an entrepreneur, because I always did know that whatever I did as a career, I didn't see myself doing something for 30, 40 years. I saw myself being able to have my hand in a few different things and have flexibility and not kind of be stuck in one realm for my entire career. And then, of course, YouTube, social media. I feel like a lot of women my age and my generation, we always think about, oh, maybe I can have a career in social media. Maybe I can have a career at YouTube. That's just like the day and age that we lived in. So of course, that crossed my mind. Like, maybe I should just make YouTube videos and see if I can get a check that way. But I was trying to figure everything out. And there were a few things that were in the front of my mind to help me make those decisions. So I don't know where I heard this quote or if I made it up in my head or where I got it from, but it's saying that I must create the life I want. No one will do it for me. This was something that I kept repeating to myself because it's very true. I mean, I can't expect anyone to pave the way for me or give me anything. I know that I have all the power. I can take the steps that I need to take and do what I need to do to reach my goals. And I knew that while I didn't know specifically where I wanted to go, I knew my goals were to be financially free. I didn't want to have to live paycheck to paycheck for anything. I didn't want to be stuck in a dead-end job where I didn't have growth. I wanted to be able to be free financially, as what it says. I wanted to be able to travel. Like I said, being in Peru, being there for 3 weeks, that really sparks that interest in me. I actually have a trip to Egypt planned in June. So I'm just getting some more stamps on my passport, and I want to keep doing that. So that was a passion for me. I wanted something that maybe I could do virtually or fully remote, something that had just a little bit of flexibility so that I could do that traveling that I was super interested in. And as well as, of course, something I'm passionate about. I never wanted to get caught in something that I didn't have any passion for. I've been in jobs that it was just horrible to wake up in the morning to get to that job. Like, I never wanted to feel that way, and feeling that way, it just, because work is such a big part of our lives, feeling that dread of work carried into my personal life. And I didn't want that to be something lifelong. So those are the 3 things that I knew that I needed to have for my life. So that took me to the first thing I created, which is this tutoring business called Learning with Us. Like I said, I've had some history in education. I worked as a teacher for a year in 2 different schools, and I kind of got to see what the school system is like. And to be very honest, and most people know this, but it's very jacked up, just to say it plainly. The school system has a lot of things that it needs to work on, and especially with COVID, a lot of students struggled. At one of the high schools I was at, it's a 2.0 GPA required to graduate, and there's so many students below a 2.0 now, which is just a C average. but so many students below a 2.0 GPA because of COVID and because of all the virtual learning that they had to do, that they didn't actually gain the skills needed to be successful in their middle school, high school classes. So they're starting off their first 2 years of high school maybe with C's, D's, and F's because they're learning everything online and they didn't have any motivation to succeed. And then that's bringing them down for the rest of their high school journey. So I saw students that were in middle school that didn't know, that had to still use their fingers to add and subtract, like basic things that you should know in elementary school and at least maybe 6th, 7th grade, that high middle school and high school students still weren't unable to do. And I knew that with a tutoring business that's offering one-on-one personalized learning, which I knew I could offer, I could support some of these students that were so far below their grade levels that they would just struggle in any future grades to come. So that was a big thing that I was passionate about, that I am passionate about. I have students virtually throughout the United States because I want to, be able to offer this to anyone, because COVID affected everyone. So we all need it. So that was the first business that I was able to create. And the next thing I want to talk about is my guided journal. This is my most recent creation. I just made this available for purchase to the public in the past month, or 2 months, I would say. So let me tell you a little about it. So I started this guided journal because, as I was saying a little bit about, I was very depressed in my work life, and it was carrying a lot into my personal life. I felt extremely trapped in my job. My job as a teacher at that time. Teaching is one of the most difficult jobs that anyone can do, and especially me really liking education, really loving working with kids. It was just extremely draining, and it took a big toll on my mental health. I was never good at being vulnerable or expressing my feelings verbally, so I started writing them down in just a plain old journal. It didn't start off as being something that would be, available for purchase. It was just me writing my feelings out and just being able to express myself free from judgment of anyone else. But it became a guided journal because as I was writing, like my first or second entry, I was thinking to myself, I'm not alone. I can't be the only one. Like, I know for a fact I'm not the only one that's going through this. I know that there's other people that feel, if not trapped in their job, trapped in other aspects of their life, or feeling like they don't have anyone to talk to, or just feeling alone. So that is how it became a guided journal. I knew that other people could benefit. So the journal discusses a lot of things. It discusses depression, anxiety, career journeys and career growth, relationship growth, self-esteem, sexuality. It's all kind of my journey through that. And it comes with questions to help you discuss and help you kind of learn more about yourself and introspect and think about how you went through these things. If you've ever experienced depression or anxiety, or how different relationships you've experienced, and it just helps you reflect. So it's not a self-help journal. It's not designed for that. It's more so just to help you connect with yourself, help you understand yourself, give you a safe place, using extreme vulnerability to just say exactly what's on your mind and feel free and just be free. So that's how I created this, why I created this, and what it's for. And I feel like my journal specifically ties into health and wellness. And this is the quote from the Sacramento Sister Circle, Our Rightful Place site, that we must care for ourselves physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually, so we be our best selves and fulfill our chosen destinies. So like I said, I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted financial freedom to be able to travel and to be passionate about my career. And that was my chosen destiny. I knew that's what I wanted. So I knew I had to take care of myself in these ways, physically, mentally, and emotionally, and spiritually. And this journal was one way that I was able to take care of myself mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Now, physically, I still got to do that, but this journal is not going to help me physically, but I can get there in other ways. And I also just thought that I also ties in with the financial freedom, because I have these multiple sources of income, and that's something that I want to carry on. I always want to have multiple sources of income, never just one. So that's all I have to say for you guys.
Thank you, Amari. And I have my book.
Yes, thank you.
And I want to just say that it was just a wonderful, how you doing? It was an opportunity to really get to know like how younger people are feeling and thinking. And I love the
Yeah.
guided questions because you can, it's like, how did this make you feel? And how did
Hmm.
you relate? And I think that a lot of us, even grown women, need that. We don't have those
Yeah.
spaces to have those conversations. And like, quite frankly, it's kind of scary to have some of these conversations or to say some of these
Exactly.
things out loud. So
Right.
thank you for sharing this. We're trying to figure out how we can get this book for our college bound ladies
Oh,
for our
I
June.
love to hear it.
And me and your mom Cynthia are working on that. So thank
Okay,
you
for
so
sure.
much.
Thank you. Of course.
Carmen, I think you should go next. Unmute yourself.
There I am. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Well, I don't have a PowerPoint, but I can talk. I used to I used to be a DJ on at a radio station for years, so I think I can handle it. Just chatting it up. But my name is Carmen Hope Thomas. I am a mom, a wife of 16 years. I have two sons. I have traveled the world with my husband and my kids. Sometimes we take them with us. We have a YouTube channel called Thomas Family Travels, and we just show how we just travel the world with our kids. A lot of people wouldn't take their kids to Abu Dhabi, but we did. Um, and I've just become, my whole life has become a mosh podge of different experiences. And I think I like what we're doing right now in that maybe for these young ladies that I'm here with, I'm 51 years old. I'll be 52 this year. To just kind of give you an idea and insight as to how I got so much done in my life. Right out of college, was a um, right out of college, I was a a DJ on the radio. And after I did that for a few years, I moved to, that was in Gainesville, Florida. Then I moved to Tampa, and that's when I worked for WTTA, which was the Fox Children's Network, which later turned into Nickelodeon. That lets you know how old I am. I did that for a few years, and then I didn't like that. And then I went back into radio into Gainesville, and then I ended up at WEDR Miami 99 Jams, which is a heritage station. A lot of people know. Heritage stations means that it's been on the air for 40 years or more. And it was a black station, so that was really, really cool to have that experience. I did that for some years, and then I left radio altogether. I really wanted to pursue a career in music. I had a band, and I traveled and sang. I traveled with my band, sang. I went to the Stellars. I wasn't on the Stellars, but I went. I went to the Grammys. I wasn't on the Grammys, but I went because I wanted to have these experiences. And I think we as Black women, because we have so much in us to give, experiences allow us the opportunity to be very intentional in what we give to our community, to our children. After having those years of traveling and singing, I started a marketing firm called Marketing Magic Solutions. And I started with all that experience that I had in radio and TV. I started helping people take their products, services, and ideas to market. I put together full scale marketing plans for them, and we did just some amazing things with some of my clients. And it wasn't long before I recognized that I had clients that was doing some crazy, crazy things that were making good money for them. And I kept saying to myself, if one day I could just come up with the perfect product, I know what to do with the perfect product. I could take it to market and I could make a ton of money. Well, that was back in the, I would say 2004, 2005. And from there, I decided to get married. I married my husband in 2006. And because of all the health challenges that I had had over the years, um, I decided to focus on having a family because I had already had a doctor tell me that I couldn't have children or it would be very difficult for me to have children. So I focused on family at that point for my husband and I had my first son in 2008. And I really didn't expect to have any more children after him because it was difficult. Um, I was um, I was 38 when I had my first son, something like that. And then I got pregnant again in at 40. I lost that child, and then I got pregnant again at 41, and I had my last son at 42, which I don't recommend. Um, anyway, I had my son, who is a delight. I love him. He's such a character. And my husband and I, at that point, then began our businesses full time. We have a business called Future Family Finance, where we help families live debt free. We teach you literally how to do it. A lot of people don't understand the distance it is. There's a distance between the 99% in America and the top 1%. It is a Mack truck that you can drive several Mack trucks through. That's how wide it is. The average median income in the 99% is 250,000, or the top income in the 99% is around 250,000 for a household. And then the 99% is $1 million. So who's making 500,000, 600,000? So there's no real people in that category. And so we began to show people to really live, you need to stop chasing these $150,000 jobs, because that's a very crowded field. And the way the economy works is it's going to suck up the middle, and the middle is going to be the ones doing all the work. That's the way the economy is kind of engineered. Um, so we helped a lot of people, I would say many, 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 many families get debt free and start chasing the 1%. And in that chase to the 1%, that's when we started to get into creative investing, Bitcoin, cryptocurrencies, blockchain technology, all kinds of things that the world opens up to you. You can play in that space when you're not paying a mortgage or a car note. And so I worked in that area for a while. Then I always said, well, you know what? I want to write a book. So I bought a publishing company, and I started literally producing books. I started with a cookbook first called Seventh Day Gourmet. And then the next thing I did was a book called Why Marry a Man You Don't Need. And I tell women all the time, and families, I know people get all into my titles for my books, but I really talked about how we marry for crazy reasons. We marry because our parents tell us it's time to get married, or we marry because we're lonely, or we want to change our lives, and we think getting married is going to allow us to get into an arena or a space that we don't have access to as a single person. And so I help people to understand that marriage has a purpose. And when you understand that purpose, then you'll choose differently. And so I did Why Marry a Man You Don't Need. And for years, that book has been blessing people. It's on Amazon. It's in Books A Million, Barnes and Noble, anywhere books are sold. I even had someone tell me they bought it on Walmart.com. So it's out there. After I did the book, I got ill back in 2015. I had a brain tumor. And the beauty of being debt free was my husband was able to stay with me for a month and a half while I healed from that. And that was a very interesting situation. I lost all my hair. As you can see, I have it back now. And from that experience, I said, you know what? Maybe it's time now to really hone in on those skills that I learned taking products to market. And that's when I came up with the product Zipporah. A friend of mine who's a chemist helped me formulate a product line that was truly organic, truly food grade, no parabens, no waxes, no silicone, no glycerin, no petroleum, no mineral oil, just a really good product that allowed Black hair, natural hair, to grow in its natural state. And I know a lot of women have the challenge of my hair will grow, but it'll only grow so far and then it gets dry and breaks off. And we found a formulation that works. And right now we formulate the product and we're in Jamaica, but we're also on Amazon.com, Amazon Canada. We just got approved for Amazon Mexico. We have a distribution house in England. We also have a distribution house in Zimbabwe, and we just closed a distribution deal in Kenya. So I'm super excited about that. And so that's why I say that, I try to help people get debt free because there's so much you could do when you're not chasing a job or a paycheck. You could really take all of your gifts and skills and share them with the world. I've helped women grow their hair back after chemotherapy. I've helped women who are aging to grow back thinning hair because they feel like, well, I'm old now and my hair's supposed to thin. And I'm like, no, it's not. I mean, that's product, that's, build up, that's all kinds of things, that's hormonal. And so we're doing wonderful things here in Jamaica. I invite you all to come visit. And that's my story. You can find out more about me at carmenhopethomas.com and also zipporahhairandskin.com. Thank you. I think you're muted.
Thank you, Carmen. How do you tell your story, that magnificent story, in less than 10 minutes? Like, my God. Like, you have been through so much. And I was lucky to meet you in Ghana, in Accra, Ghana, last December while we were there. And we just complimented each other. We're at the fabric store. And I'm like, girl, your outfit is cute. Where you get that? Like, what? And then she was like, oh, well, where are you guys going? And we just started talking. And I kicked it with her and her husband for 3 of the 4 or 5 days that you were there. And so it was really a pleasure to meet you. I love that you're sharing your story. And I mean, I know a lot of people can be blessed from that. So thank you so very much. She didn't even tell you everything. She has so many.
I gave you the cliff notes, the important.
And I appreciate that for you. Also, the Sacramento Sister Circle is going to join Carmen in November, tentatively. And that's definitely something we're doing. We're going to be working with an orphanage that she's in connection with. And, we also going to Ghana. I'll talk about that announcement later, but thank you, Carmen. I appreciate you. The next person that I want to bring up, and she just joined us, so I want to appreciate that, Alana Matthews. She's like a really good friend of mine. We actually were roommates in South Africa. We were there with the Renaissance group, with a really good friend of ours, Dr. Flo, and we just connected ever since. I think I won her over when we were talking about who she was dating, and I said, I'm Team Alana. And it was like, oh, yeah. I ain't picking neither one of them. I'm picking Alana. And I think that experience has made us really good friends to this day. So welcome, Alana, and thank you. I'd like for you to share and give us a little bit more information about yourself.
Well, thank you for having me in this inaugural session of Beyond the Surface, the Soul Sunday series. So, gosh, Christi, there's so much. So where do I start? I'll try to give the cliff notes like Carmen. I think most recently what my journey has kind of led was last year. Well, in 2020, I decided to run for district attorney for Sacramento County. And that journey was it was difficult, but it actually really wasn't difficult. When you move in purpose, when you feel that you're called to do something, you just do it. And so looking back on it now, I'm like, I cannot believe I really just did that. I just set up in my little den and was like, you know what, this criminal justice system is failing, and I'm just gonna get up and do it because we're not getting anywhere. So I didn't. I just knew that there was a problem, and I was really focused on solving the problem of a criminal justice system that was broken. And sometimes people say, oh, the system wasn't broken. It was never meant to serve us. But it actually is broken because it's not serving a lot of people. Um, and while it is, perpetuating disparities in our communities, it is really, in a lot of ways, doing a disservice to all victims. It's not even serving some victims or survivors. So that journey was one that really opened my eyes politically because, again, I entered into that arena just trying to solve a problem. But when you run for office, there are really two skill sets you need. One is a skill set to actually do the job, but there's another skill set in just learning to be a candidate, because those are two very different things. And winning a political contest is in and of itself just something different. So and people have jobs. There are people who are full-time consultants on campaigns. There are people who are fundraisers for campaigns. There are people who are campaign managers, and are treasurers, and that is their career. That is how they make their money. And I just never really thought about that as a career choice. So it taught me those two aspects of it. And then I think, as a Black woman entering into the political arena, we already know from a victim standpoint. I don't know if anyone's watched Netflix, the newest Surviving R. Kelly, the third series, but one of the primary messages is just how Black women are victimized and no one cares. No one gives a damn. And going into that political arena, you see it's not only that no one really cares about Black women, but there is a certain level of vitriol to get Black women out of that space. Like, you don't matter, you don't belong. And for some, it's just like, I would rather see anybody. And we know racism exists, we know sexism exists, but to experience that in a way, like, we know racism exists, but until you're called the N word or you're chased down, somebody's trying to attack you, you just experience racism, not as some abstract evil or some statistical analysis, but like really threatening your existence. You also experience that as a Black woman candidate, which for me made it all the more important why I needed to be in that space. And so now being on that side of it, it was a very, very empowering experience because I changed the narrative. I defined what the issues were. I defined, and that race was really, it's centered and anchored and as to what I said it should. And then it went from there. So I wasn't successful in winning the election, but very successful in um, having a pulse, having my finger on the pulse of what mattered to the community, of what issues needed to be spoken to, from the media, what they were writing about, what they wanted to highlight. It was all very different. So that was a very interesting experience, and I was still sort of in this, okay, what's the next problem I'm going to solve? And things shifted in the universe. Once I didn't win. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll go back to my nonprofit. And I was working with a nonprofit as the director of training prosecutors across the country. Said, okay, I'll continue to do that. And then a lot of other offers started coming in. And so even though there is this level of vitriol that Black women can face. And there is a lack of empathy towards Black women. At the very same time, there is a power and a force that Black women have, that you can step into a space. You don't have to shrink. You will take up all the oxygen out of the room. And you don't even have to try. You know, like some people do try, like they're doing too much and they do, but your presence just resets the tone. And I came into a space in my life, and I'm over 40, especially when you're over 45. You learn to take ownership of that. You recognize it and you take ownership. And these opportunities, like national opportunities, you know, more prestigious, was like, we want you to work for you. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to chase, you know, that $150,000 job. Like, it was coming to me, and they're like, oh, they want to hire you. Well, how much are they paying you? We'll beat that salary. And I'm like, is this really happening? You know, you don't have to negotiate and say, I want this. It's like, it was just happening. And it was because I was walking in my power that we have. And I think that, you know, when you're moving in purpose, everybody can have it. It's not a gender or a race you know, that's limited to. But for us, you know, I mean, it really is a moment. Earlier today, I had an opportunity. I went to go to the Oakland Museum. They have a special exhibit on Angela Davis. And it was so empowering. And she has a quote that says, we are in community with generations that haven't even been born yet. Just let that sink in. And so I could see a continuum, because when we look at the circumstances that we're in, good, bad, or ugly, it is from generations of decision makers that have happened. And so the fights that we fight, the books that we write, the journals that we create, the orphanages, the infrastructure that we're putting in place now, it's for generations that haven't even been. And I see this continuum, and that's a part of the power that you can kind of step into, that I realized the fight that I was fighting, the problems that I see myself trying to solve, it is really on a continuum of justice and equity that our foremothers and forefathers have been fighting for. And I have just now found myself in that space, in the continuum. And then to just have this light bulb going off of those who aren't even born yet. So that's a little bit about me. I don't know if my 10 minutes is up, but you know, that kind of all culminated in that experience. And that's the space that I'm occupying, and being really intentional about everything that I do moving forward, because it's not just for me in this moment, but it's for the legacy that's going to go forward.
You did great, Alana. Look at you. Well, I want to just say to you, Alana, that you inspired me and a whole bunch of other women. And I'm really excited for what's to come in Sacramento. And I definitely think have you have sparked the light that is going to be bright in Sacramento. And it's going to make Shay want to move to Sacramento since she's already from Sacramento.
Yes, ma'am.
But seriously, thank you, Alana. I really love and appreciate you. She worked really, really hard, and it was disappointing at times to see how much our community did not support Black women running for office, especially one that was more than qualified. More, like someone said before, we didn't even deserve her, right? But she was willing to take on that role. But I just love and appreciate you. I love and appreciate you all. But me and Alana, we go back. That's my South African. We got some stories to tell. Well, now I would like to bring Shay to the forefront, and she's the perfect person to end the introduction of the panelists. And I just love her. We met like 2-3 weeks ago, and I'm just like all things Shay. So please introduce yourself to everybody.
Hi, everybody. My name is Shalicia Lachey, but I go by Shay. I currently live in Washington, D.C., but as you guys talked about before, it's funny how the connection is for this line, because a couple of us are lived in Tampa. So I grew up a military brat. My dad was stationed in multiple places growing up. I was also, both my parents are also preachers. So I've traveled with them while they do speaking engagements, while they're preaching. I traveled with my dad while he was in the military. I've been all around the world. So my family, me and my family, we are like super close. Like I'm super close with my family. The friendships that I have are familial friendships. Like the friendships that I have in my life are people who are very close to me. I went to college in South Florida. I went to college in Tampa, University of South Florida. Go Bulls! I know y'all know about that Tampa. So yeah, so I'm happy to be amongst all of you women. I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Christy. I'm so happy to meet you. Like she said earlier, I think I'm from Sacramento now because I just jumped in and they just welcomed me with open arms. I was in Sacramento a couple weeks ago speaking at the For Best Friends Only event. Shout out to those ladies. They were lovely, and I'm thankful for them introducing me to this network of women. And I'm also happy to be here on the season premiere of the show. So, as I stated before, I moved around a lot. I worked for the military. I traveled a lot as an adult to different countries, different states. I just have met a lot of people, and I cherish a lot of the friendships that I have. And because I move around a lot, I tend to leave friends behind. But I had this one friend, my best friend. She was the best friend anyone could ever have, and her name was Angel. And she was like my A spoon coon. Like we were sharing locations with each other before it was popular to do so. Like I had the password to her phone. She had the password to my phone. She knew my family. I knew her family. She was at my family reunions. She was my best friend. So in January 2020, we were it was just a it was a time, I'll say that. It was a time, dealing with relationships, dating people and whatnot. And she was dating this guy and they got into an argument and he killed her. He shot her 6 times and left her to die in the front of her apartment complex. And that was one of the most devastating, most traumatic experiences that I ever went through in my life because that was my best friend. And talking about sisterhood, the Sacramento Sisterhood Circle, friendships, all of this, when you lose someone who's that close to you, it has a great impact on your life. And it was interesting to me because my best friend always wanted to do something. She wanted to do something together, be in business together. And like I shouted out for Best Friends Only earlier, she saw their group one day on Instagram, was like, oh, we should start something like this. So after she passed away in January 2020, it was probably 3 months later, COVID happened. So everybody was locked up. Everybody was in their shells. So I was trying to still fulfill what my best friend encouraged me to do. She wanted me to start a YouTube channel. She encouraged me to start a book club. So I actually finished the book club with her right before she passed away. And we read the book, The 40-Day Prayer Challenge. That was the first book club I ever did. And that book tremendously changed her life and got her to her destiny. But when COVID happened, I decided to start a book club. And then I decided to start reaching out to people and helping people where it comes to domestic violence, substance abuse, any type of abuse I wanted to help people with. So I started the nonprofit Queendom Business so that I can do outreach to people in the community and help them and be able to help people as they go through different life trials. Our as Miss Alana was just saying, when you're walking in purpose, you know when you're walking in purpose. And our motto at Queendom Business is to turn your pain into purpose. So me losing my best friend, I was able to turn it into a nonprofit to help people. I do community events for the community, field days, sleepovers, vision board parties. We just do a lot, do outreach. It's not particular to men or women, but women seem to need more love and support because Black women seem to be so undervalued, as Alana was just saying. And it's important that we value our Black women. And the pillar that I wanted to talk about today that connects to the Sacramento Sisterhood is Black femicide. As she stated, that the percentage of Black women being killed during the pandemic drastically went up. And although my best friend was killed right before the pandemic, it still was something that was going on that wasn't talked about. And we're losing our Black women to domestic violence, domestic abuse, a lot of times at the hands of our Black men. So I believe it starts when they're young. It starts when they're young, what they're seeing when they're growing up, who's training them. Are you training up your child in the way they should go or not? A lot of those things take factors in the way that people grow up to be. So as I was grieving my best friend, and I started to forget certain things that me and her went through, just like fun stuff. I just started to forget it, and someone bought me a journal and was like, "You just need to write," because I was grieving so terribly. COVID was actually a blessing for me because I was able to be shut up in my room and grieve. Um, in the few weeks before we went on lockdown, while I had to deal with her death and still go to work and still do the main functions of people, it was hard for me because people were like, "Oh, I want the fun Shay back," or, "Oh, you don't seem happy no more." And I'm like, I'm not happy. Like, I'm not going to be happy. I just lost my best friend in the most tragic of tragic ways. But COVID was a blessing in disguise for me. I know it was a hardship for a lot of people, but it was good for me, to grieve, to be able to be by myself and grieve. So I started writing in a journal about all the things that I remembered about her. And when I looked at it, I said, "Oh, this could be a book." So I couldn't figure out how to get into a book because I was still grieving. But after we went to court, and last year in April, they sentenced the man who killed her to life in prison, I felt like a release. After I felt the release, it was like, oh, wow, let me put this book together. So I wrote the book called Lessons from an Angel, and my best friend's name was Angel. And I want to, the book is about healthy friendships. It's about healthy friendships and about all the things that, um, the keys to healthy friendships is 42 keys in here about how to be a friend. And as my sister said earlier, with her journal, she has little writing prompts and stuff. I have writing prompts in here. This is a book that I would love for to teach a course on about friendship, because I think that I am the friendship chick. I know you guys seen the Instagram, because I am the friendship chick. I have friends from all different walks of life. So many different people are drawn to me. I feel like friendship is my ministry, and it's all because of my best friend Angel. So I wrote the book Lessons from an Angel, and it'll be out next month. And I will be going on a book tour, and I will give the information to Christi, or you can just find me on Instagram at the Friendship Chick and pre-order your book now. But I just want to share her story because I don't want her death to be in vain. There's so many women who are lost to this system, and I want to make sure that her story lives on, because she was my angel. That was my angel. That was my best friend, and she taught me everything about sisterhood. I don't have any sisters. I have all brothers. I see my brother on the line. Hey, Junior. I see my mother. Hey, Mom. I have all brothers. So I don't have a physical sister, but she was my sister, and she taught me everything there was to know about friendship and sisterhood. So if you got a friend, if you got friends, your best friend, hang on to them, cherish them, because you never know. My best friend was 28 years old when her life was taken. You never know when it won't be no more. So cherish those friendships and those godly friendships that God has sent you, because they're there for a reason.
Thank you, Shay.
Thank
I
you.
really appreciate you. You're trying to make me cry.
I'm
Let's all
sorry.
take a deep breath in.
I know, because that was tough. But yes. Yes.
Well, thank you, ladies, all for sharing your stories. I, of course, know your stories, which is why I chose you all to be here with us and to talk um, with us and share your stories. I am just so excited because when I hear the rest of your stories, I realize how much we all have in common. Like, I
Right.
can relate to every single last one of you. And it's really important for me to have a young woman. So Amari, thank you so much for sharing like what you're going through now, because we're your big sisters. I know you have an awesome mom, but you have a big, huge support that want to make sure that you don't have to deal with the things that we've dealt with. I
Yes.
feel like we're doing a disservice if the young women that come after us are experiencing the same things that we did. It really upsets me. Like, I'll be like,
Yeah.
And because I wasn't one of those children that was hard headed. When my mama told me something was gonna happen, I was like, "Oof, I don't think I want that smoke." So let me just, do what I need to do to make sure I'm on
Yeah,
the other side of that. But
and
I
it's
wanted,
very appreciated. Yeah, it's very appreciated. I was nervous. I knew I was like, I'm probably gonna be the youngest person here, and I'm always feel nervous about that. But I love to be surrounded by just beautiful like blackness and strong blackness, of course, in women, and to be around successful Black women that we can all support each other and just connect with each other. Like I'm never gonna turn down that opportunity. So I'm happy to be here as well.
yay. So
Yes.
now I want to open it up to all of us. Let's ask each other questions. What's kind of speaking for you? What is coming up for you? Let me wipe my little tears. Like, definitely just want us to connect with each other, and especially all the things that you all have already shared.
Alana, I'm curious a bit about your background, like in politics. Since I haven't been in California for the past few years, I'm not really aware of too much of what's going on in Sacramento. So I'm kind of curious as to kind of your role and what you do out there.
So now, well, first of all, I didn't have a background in politics. I voted for Obama and I was very excited. So I walked for him in a couple different states. That's probably the most active I've ever been. But other than that, I just voted. I educated myself on the issues. I knew nothing. And when I say I knew nothing about running a campaign or anything like that. But that's just something that we do. We as Black women just have to rise to the challenge and stand up to the moment. So one of the positions where I landed and where I feel like I really should be is I'm now on the executive team for a Bay Area prosecutor's office. So I'm the assistant DA in Contra Costa County. There are two of us. So that's a good job because I get to do the work. I mean, I really feel deeply we need to reform our criminal justice system. So that's what I'm doing right now is working on policy and some programs. And we have some great laws in California that can help. So one is called the Racial Justice Act. And so really helping bridge that gap between keeping communities safe and accountability, but really leading from a victim centered and a trauma informed, healing informed. I got that from Christi. Everybody talks about having trauma informed services, but no one talks about healing informed. But where we center that. So it's not just about you did harm and we're going to punish you, but what is it going to take for that person who has been harmed to be made whole? So looking at restorative justice, and again, some work I've done with our wonderful host, Christi, looking at not just restorative justice in the criminal context, but does it apply in relationships and family relationships? Does it apply in an employment settings? How many times have people been wronged on the job and no one has really taken account for that? So anyway, since you asked me a question, I'm going to throw a question out because I'm the only one. I'm slacking on this panel because I don't have a book. So I would like to throw it out. Anybody out there, like, how do we do this? How do we get it started? Because clearly I'm behind the ball on this.
Carmen is the publisher.
It's interesting. I had my book literally written for years before I published it. Um, it was it was my brain tumor in 2015 and almost dying that got put the fire under me to get it done because I know we've all heard the story. There's a ton of books in the graveyard that were never published. And so once I came out of that and I got my head clear, I started doing research. And I realized that there's most people um, only have enough funds to, publish maybe 1,000 books that they self-publish, and then they pass them out. They sell them until they have no more. I did not want to do that because I remember the days, and I know I'm dating myself again, when I used to travel with my 1,000 CDs in the back of my car, and after a gig, we pull them out and sell them. I didn't want to be that again. So what I did was I did some research And my husband and I weighed the pros and the cons and recognized that owning a publishing company afforded us a little bit more leeway when it came to publishing a book, this one book. Owning a publishing company opens the door for you to have the routes to all of the book outlets. So when I write something or I publish for someone, at first it was just for me. I was going to write books. That's what I planned to do. But then, of course, being a Renaissance woman, I do so many other things. We did the one book, and I recognized I worked with a gentleman who's an author's services, and he helped me to understand the difference. So you may spend $2,000 or $3,000 doing that one book where you got them all in boxes in your garage, but you could spend $5,000 or $6,000 and just going on and get the publishing company, and now you don't have no books in your garage. All the books are in Barnes and Noble, in Books a Million. You see the difference? But it's cost prohibitive for most people because that leap between the $2,000 and the $6,000 is just too big of a leap. And you don't know if you're going to ever do it again. And it's just an idea. And that's the difference. So when I did that, then I had all kinds of people coming to me saying, somebody told me you own a publishing company. Could you do my book? And then I had the company. And so I would do the books for people. And unlike most companies that are out there, I'm very fair. I give you mostly, anywhere between 70 and 80% of all your money, because the other money is just for me to keep the channels open, because it does cost money to run a publishing. I don't really do it to make money. I'm doing it because I really want to help women and men get their stories out. So that's Future Family Publishing. And you can read about us online.
I'd love for Shay and Amari to also talk about, like, I know both of you talked about your inspiration, but the follow through, right? Like, writing a book is I mean, Carmen, you too, like writing a book, and you said you wrote the book and you didn't do anything with it for several years. Like, why is it important for us as Black women to write books and share the stories that we have to share?
I think it's healing. I like Shay's story. I'm blown away. I think that's the perfect thing to do, to write about your friend. That's the most beautiful way to honor her. Um, and then to take, like she said, take that pain and turn it into something a bit more productive. So I applaud you, and I would love to help you, um, get your book out. I know I don't know how you did it, but Amazon is easy. It's not hard to do an Amazon
So
situation. But
I went through a publisher. Like you said, that jump between the 2000 to the 6,000, it was challenging because a lot of people were telling me to self-publish, but I have a 9 to 5 like most people do. And when you self-publish, you have to push that book yourself. And I don't necessarily have the time, money, or resources to be pushing a book myself. So I went with the publisher. So like she said, I'll be able to get that into the avenues and be able to do it. And the process for me personally with this book has been a challenge, because I feel like there were a lot of things going on with my healing process before it needed to be out publicly. There were a lot of things, that this is a book about my best friend, but she has family. She has family, and, I don't want to do anything, adverse to bring a book out, and we're still grieving. We're all still dealing with her death. It just was a lot of things that, that were that could have hindered the book. So the process took a little longer than I expected it to go, but God's timing is divine timing, and everything works out when it's supposed to. So I just stopped worrying so much about when the book is going to come out, and just when the book comes out, it'll be time for it to be out, and I just leave it at that. But the process was a bit challenging because of all the circumstances that led up to me writing the book. But like Carmen said, I have other books that I just sat on the side that I've written probably since I was like 21 years old, but I just never felt like nobody was going to listen. You know, who is Shay? Like, why would I buy a book from her? Like, I always thought, like, I always knew that there was something more that I was supposed to do before those books were supposed to be released. And I knew it was going to be something grand, not something on the grand scheme of things where God was going to give me a platform. And it just so happened that happened to be intertwined with my best friend. And it's always very divine to me because my best friend was always there with me. So she would always be like, oh, when you make it, we gonna make it, and you gonna do this, and I'm gonna do your makeup, and I'm gonna have your hair together. And she was always that person, and now she's the reason why I'm that person. So it's kind of like a full circle moment for me writing this book. So this book was very emotional, the whole process, very emotional. It's still very emotional for me now. Even like when the book isn't even out to the public now, but I feel like that's going to bring a whole nother whirlwind of emotions. But it definitely was indeed a process. And then it was a process. That's all I can say is it was a process.
And I encourage you to do the audiobook. I know that's do the
Okay, that's
audiobook.
confirmation. That's 3 times this week. Somebody told me her mother said, I would love to hear your voice imitating her talking when you're talking about the book, and I want to sleep to it. I want to hear it when I go to sleep.
Yeah,
And two other people said that to me just this week. I'm saying in the last 72 hours. So that's confirmation for me, and I will get the audiobook out there too. Thank you.
absolutely. And there's a ton of ways to do audiobooks. So
I'm
explore
gonna chat
them.
with you.
Yeah, there's a ton of ways. You don't even
Yeah,
have to.
this must not be the last time that you all talk to each other, okay? I don't allow for that. Alana knows this. Like, this better not be the last time that y'all talk to each other. Like, this is definitely for the people that are watching this, but
Mm-hmm.
it's also to connect the 4 women that I've chosen for today. So I
Mm-hmm.
want to ask you guys a question because I feel like it's important, and I don't think we talk about it enough. We talk about, being fierce and strong, brilliant and beautiful Black women, but I really think that we need to share our disappointments more, and then also how we've overcome those disappointments. I
Mm-hmm.
know a couple of you, and I can definitely tell you I know Alana's disappointments when she was running for her campaign. Also personally, she knows things about, me and my family. I think we need to talk about those disappointments because we are still standing strong and being fierce and doing all these wonderful, amazing things. We're the mothers of civilization. Like what we're doing is in us, right? But I think we need to talk about our disappointments more. So, who would like to talk first? And then also how you deal with that disappointment and how you overcome. And yeah, I think that's enough.
I agree.
You want to go first?
Okay. I agree that we need to talk about our disappointments. I get a lot of backlash often for speaking about my downfalls, and I believe that people can't learn if they see you as this perfect person all the time. As I just shared, my book was supposed to be out in November, and we are now 6 months later, and it's still not out. It comes out next month, and that was a huge disappointment for me. But I chose to look at the bright side. Even in my personal life, I have a whole YouTube series called I Never Had a Boyfriend. It took me almost 30 years to get a boyfriend. And people were like, why would you share something like that? That makes you look weak. And no, it doesn't make me look weak. It doesn't make me look weak at all because I have reasons why. Because I have standards. I know who I am. I'm not settling for less. I've always had standards. That was one of the things that people saw as a disappointment, but I always turn my disappointments around for the better to make it a lesson learned for me and a lesson learned for the women around me and for the people around me that may be going with the same thing, because many people do not share they don't share their downfalls, they don't share their disappointments. When you're on Instagram, it's not like people are going to say, oh, look, I failed my test today. Oh, look, I did this. They're always just going to rejoice in the good things. But I think it's very important that we share our downfalls and share disappointments, because that is the only way you will help the next person, is if you've been through it. That is the only way they'll listen to you. A lot of people don't listen to you about certain things unless you have been through it. So now when I have friends that are like, oh, I just want a boyfriend, I can say, it's okay. It's okay to wait. It's okay to love yourself. It's okay to go to Red Lobster by yourself. It's okay to go to church by yourself. Because I've literally done all those things by myself. It is okay. learn to love yourself. And they listen to me because they've seen it. They've seen it and they believe it and they know it to be true. So I truly believe in sharing your downfalls, because that's the only way you're going to help other people.
I agree, and I think it kind of pivots into my what is disappointing to me. What disappoints me is that we, as a culture, a people, have not learned how to have healthy relationships. We, as women who do have them, don't take the time to help other women understand what's happening in their lives, what's causing this. It took me to 36, 37 to get married, and I was the oldest woman in my family to have never had a child or get married by the time I did get married. And I had people walking up to me saying, "You're so beautiful, girl. Why won't you get married?" As though I had control over it, as though I wasn't asking myself on
Right.
what is that? And I think that what we have done, and this is what I write about. My journalist
She
background
is
really gave
she's
me
stuck, huh?
an insight
Carmen?
about. Can you hear me?
She's
Yes.
stuck.
My background gave me somewhat of an insight as to what's missing for us culturally as a people.
Mhm.
We've had so much trauma in our families and in our relationships that when it comes down to how we relate male and female together is flawed because we don't understand. We're going by another culture's idea of what a happy marriage is.
Mhm.
Who we are as a people, Black people, we have a different standard when it comes to marriages and relationships. And we can no longer look at other cultures for guidance on what we need to be seeing, understanding, and knowing about relationships. Relationships for us were mandatory, necessary for survival, which is one of the reasons why they wouldn't allow us to marry
Mhm.
during slavery time. They wouldn't allow it. They saw how we functioned together, how we were together when we were married and happy. That's why it was necessary to break us apart in order to control us. So when you understand the purpose of marriage as a Black female,
Okay.
when we understand that we're no longer now looking for certain things that society tells us we should be looking for. No, 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 no. We have to stop looking for what they tell us we should be looking for and understand who we are as a people and what's necessary for us. So that's why when I see certain people hook up, everybody said, "Why is Beyonce with Jay-Z?" Because she understands what she needs.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? So everybody wanted her to marry somebody that was cute like her and all that.
Yes.
She understood what she needed, and
Wait, you
she
said Jay Z
had
not
to.
cute?
Well, everyone has something to say about the way the man look, but for
Because he
her,
he's
it's
Black.
beautiful. Yeah,
He matches
yeah.
her purpose. They
It
work in
Exactly.
alignment together.
exactly.
Mhm.
And I think that what we do is we looking for somebody who could take care of us. No, there are other groups of women who have been raised to be taken care of. They raise them from childhood. They looking for a man with money,
Mhm.
and they teach them how to be trophies, how to be kept, and how to be taken. Notice those ballers don't pick a Black woman because that's not how she's not raised to be kept.
Mhm.
But they want that because they feel that that is the next step in their journey of being successful because that's what other people tell them.
Mhm.
But we understand as Black women what it requires to keep a family together, how to nurture a family, how to create an environment for everybody to win. And that's why we have to remain true to what it is. That's why I say I know the book says, why marry a man you don't need? And you're thinking, well, why marry a man I don't need? Mm-mm. I'm telling you why. Why marry a man you don't need? Stop looking for a man that you feel will take care of you and give you everything you think you want. That's not why we marry. That's why they marry.
Mhm.
We marry to nurture a community. That's why we marry. We know how to pour into a brother and give him everything he needs to be
Support.
magnificent. We know how to do that. So that's
Mhm.
why you marry. You
Yeah.
don't marry to be taken care of.
But then to add to that, we need to figure out how to make sure we're getting taken care of and how we're not getting killed and all these
Mm.
other things in the
Mhm.
same unit,
Absolutely.
right?
Pouring too
Absolutely.
I
much.
I love I feel like we need to center our and put ourselves at the top of the
Yeah.
list.
And it's funny, and I'll tell you this quick thing. My husband, when I first started dating him, I was making $135,000 a year in Miami. So I was living. I drove a Lexus to church and a BMW to work.
Mm.
I was doing my thing. He was working at a telecom company. But I recognized in him everything that my mother told me a man should have. I recognized that in him. You know, since the day we married, I ain't never worked. Not work, not a job.
Hmm.
Mm-mm. Not a job. I've done businesses, things I wanted to do, but I ain't never went to no job. And people find that hard to believe. How did you do that? I created an environment that brother will tell you right now. People say all the time, how you know your husband travels so much? How you know he don't cheat? Because ain't nobody going to create no environment that I'm creating.
Okay.
And
Deep
if
as
they
Peter.
do,
Right.
and if they do, you just get you another one that you can create the environment for.
Create them up, honey.
All right,
Create
so
them.
Alana, I and Amari, I definitely would like for you all to answer that question, please.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say my disappointments. One of the big ones for me is not keeping up with as much friendships as I feel like I should have. I feel like that's been one of my biggest disappointments just within myself is like realizing I haven't talked to my friends in however many weeks, months, and then it just grows and grows and grows. And then I get to a point where I feel like, oh, I can't hit them up because it's been too long. And like, oh, maybe I should wait for them to hit me up. And it's like this uncomfortable kind of like waiting period. And it's something that I touched on like in my journal because it was something that I started to feel very alone because I felt like I didn't have any friendships. And then especially moving to Tampa, I moved to Tampa alone. I didn't have any family here. I didn't know anybody here. I just moved and said I'm gonna figure it out. And so all my friends that I made in college are still in San Diego or out in California. So it was a really tough adjustment, and I wish that I had just kind of held on to those friendships in college. I kept in contact a bit more. I'm saying that like I still like can't do it, and that's what I that's what I want to do. Like that's my goal, and that's and that's what I've started to do more often is just reach out to old friends more because you need a network. I can't make it through this life all on my own. Like I need friends, I need people my age that I can express, just go through life with. So that's one of my disappointments, as well as as well as not completing my master's degree. Even though I knew, like, I didn't want that, like, I didn't want to get a master's in social work. I knew that I didn't see that in my future, but it was just kind of a shameful thing for me, just knowing that I applied, I was accepted to this program, and then I didn't complete it. So that was kind of a disappointment, but I was able to turn that around because I knew that that wasn't in my future. So it didn't hold me back too much because I was confident that I had made the right decision. It's just kind of the principle of not completing that did kind of take a toll on me a bit. But I'm happy with my decision and I wouldn't have changed it. I'm glad with what I did. So yeah.
That's good.
So for me, part of my self-care is how I deal with disappointment. And just being a woman and a Black woman, you're going to get that a lot.
Mhm.
So when disappointment, like not winning the election, I kind of went through that journey very aware of self-care and making sure that I don't want to be in a negative space because I've gone through a divorce, I've gone through workplace, working in a hostile environment before. And so just so that I never did lose my mind, I had to have a way that I recognize what's beyond my control and to really only have a disappointment when it's within my control. So when I have failed in not doing everything that I should do, but when there is something that has impacted me negatively, I have lost something, it doesn't bother me as much unless I haven't done everything that I'm supposed to do. So in the race, the DA's race, even though I didn't win, and I apologize, I have my daughter's dog. I hope she's trying to make her be quiet. So oh gosh. So anyway, I dealt with that by knowing like I'm doing everything that I should do. And I also I made sure that I did everything that I needed to do so that if the result wasn't what I wanted, I wouldn't be feeling that. But I will tell you something that was within my purview that I've been very open about is a disappointment in a dating choice that I made. So Shay, girl, be glad you saved yourself a lot of heartache. But I was 40 years old. I was an attorney, very accomplished. I had an appointment under the governor, and I found myself in an abusive relationship. And it wasn't abusive like I was getting black eyes and getting choked, but that's not the way domestic violence always shows up. It can be stalking. It can be someone sending you a bunch of, text messages. Now, this person did after I got away from them and I told them it was crazy, they were crazy. And Christi was right there, like, yeah, that wasn't Alana. You need to. So I ended it. And I hadn't had contact with this person for months because I recognized how toxic they were. But they came in my house and broke into my garage. And so I had to wind up getting a restraining order. And I started my career as a deputy DA, which means I was in court all the time. So to have to go into court and get a restraining order, this person was an attorney. There wasn't like, oh, some bootleg, jackleg person down the street. No, they were a professional, but they were a narcissist and they couldn't believe that I didn't want to date them anymore. And I broke it off, quickly and still found myself. And that was a lot of disappointment because I had shame around that. And this is, I had prosecuted domestic violence cases. So I had that myth of like, oh, women who find themselves, they have low self-esteem or they're, in a codependency. And I was none of that. And I realized that some men, they're attracted to that. Like that's a prize for them to take a very outgoing, accomplished person and break them down. So for me, I had to sit with a lot of emotions of shame, embarrassment, being humiliated, being fearful. I had to sit with all of that. And I think that's what I kind of want to share. And what the number one thing I got out of that is don't do it alone. Because I had to go to court. And I just knew that the weight of that was just too much. And I reached out to my sisters and I never would have believed they would have responded the way that they did. Y'all, when I went to court for that little restraining order, it was packed. And it was women of all ages, colors, hues. And when I came forward, so many other women were like, yeah, he's done this and he's done that. And professional women in the legal profession were like, oh, we're going to come and we're going to stand with you. And it was weird because a year before my incident happened, the woman he was dating, she had just got her restraining order. And so if you don't speak up about it, so I was like, okay, this is a disappointment. And even though it was something that I took ownership of because I had made the decision to date, I really also understood it was at a point where, I didn't do anything to cause that. That was totally, but I think we do come in life where we realize we fall short. And we kind of want to get to that place, especially when you're kind of talking about DV or anytime you've been the victim of any type of crime, because you don't want it to happen again. And it's hard to just feel in a space where you're just completely helpless and vulnerable. You want to look and say, okay, what did I do so that I know that I don't do it again? So I won't be in that situation. So it was really just sitting through and allowing myself to feel and process and work through those emotions. But then it was also reach out to my sisters because I wasn't the first. And probably everybody that I talked to was like, girl, let me tell you, I had to get a restraining order. Or let me tell you about this crazy situation. And it's like, wow, you think you're the only one. Other people, Amari, out there trying to get their masters too. They're like, ah. So, being able to open up about that and being real with myself to like sit with those emotions, every negative emotion, and feel it, sift through it, like, okay, yeah, this don't belong to me. Okay, yeah, this one does belong to me. I can work through that. And so that's how I deal with it. And it's really helpful because I'm a mom of 3 adult children. And you reach a point as a parent where you can't save your children. They have to go through that journey there themselves. And so learning how to go through that process and separate out for me has been very helpful to separate it out for my children. And like, nope, they don't want advice right now. They don't need advice. Just let them be on their way. You can be encouraging, but that's it. You can't work everything out for everybody. So Christi, you're muted.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh.
We're trying to get Shay's information to the screen, but Shay, go ahead and give your contact information.
Okay. You can find me on Instagram at Queendom Business. My personal page is the Friendship Chick. I think she was trying to put the pre-order for the book in there, but you can find it on there. I think my little brother texted me and said he put it in the on the YouTube chat, so it might be in.
Never mind. Yeah, that's copy. Okay, cool. We're gonna make sure to put it in the comments. I'm glad. Look at little brother coming through. Yes, little brother. Well, I just want to tell you, ladies, because I don't want to hold you all, and I think an hour and a half for a online thing is enough. And I also just really want to encourage everyone to reach out to these wonderful women. I've shared their contact information, their websites. Alana, I didn't share none of your stuff because you busy. You booked it busy, but you can also find Alana online at Alana Matthews. But I just want to thank each and every one of you all for sharing your stories, for being the dynamic and incredible women that you are. You are all a part of the Sacramento Sister Circle and Our Rightful Place. And I know that you'll continue to stay in touch with me because I don't let people go. I'm going to see Shay later on this week because I'm going to DC. I'm going to see
Amari soon.
Yes. I'm going to see Carmen. I'm coming to Jamaica. If not before, but definitely in November. And Alana, we got to get back to our walks because I miss you. And that's the way that we keep in touch with each other. We be working out, walking and talking. And that's just the way that we kind of keep our thing going. So I am so appreciative of you all. So I definitely want to plug out. This is the Beyond the Surface Leadership Academy. This is the Soul Sunday Speaker series. This is the first time that we have done this. I'm so excited. You guys did a great job. Give yourselves a round of applause. Thank you so much. And the next one will be on April the 23rd. And it is going to be a culture exchange with women from Ghana. So I have connected with an organization in Ghana called Real Moms Connect. And we're going to actually be having a Zoom meeting with those women. I'm going to have a limited amount I can have, and They're going to have the equal amount, and we're going to just come together as women. That's probably going to be longer than an hour and a half, probably about 2 hours. But this speaker series is a members only event. We just started as a members. Well, we started a section of our rightful place as a members only section where I really want to build relationships with women that really want to build sisterhood, that want to do things collectively together, that want to make a greater impact. It is $25 to be a member for the year. So you'll be able to join our speaker series. You'll also get the opportunity to be featured as our speakers. We're going to be having private events in person and online. We'll have some type of activity online where we can all come together at least once a month. But I really want to cultivate the friendships, the sisterhood, and I also want us to do so much more. If we come together, we can do so much more. So I really want to start building that out. I love the 9.4 women, almost 10,000 women that that is on the Sacramento Sister Circle platform. But I really think it's time for us to go beyond the surface, to get a little deeper, because we got a lot of work to do. So thank you, ladies, for joining me. I love everything about y'all. Keep doing it. You reach out to each other, connect with each other. Everybody reach out to these wonderful women. I want to thank Rolanda for hosting us on the Earth Mama Network. Please check out Earth Mama Network and subscribe on YouTube. And let's just keep this going. And until I see you all next time, take care, ladies.
Thank you,
Thank
Christy.
you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Where you ending at? Believe.